Imagine standing on the wooden deck of a warship in the year 674 AD. Right in front of you, the horizon is completely covered by over 500 enemy warships sailing straight toward your home city of Constantinople. If they break through, your empire is destroyed. Your crew is terrified, sweating through their armor, holding onto their oars for dear life. You have no heavy metal cannons. You have no long-range missiles. What you do have, mounted right at the wooden front tip of your ship, is a carved bronze dragon head with a brass pipe sticking out of its jaws. Inside your ship's belly sits a pressurized kettle, bubbling with a secret liquid so deadly that even you don't know the exact formula. You are about to launch the closest thing the ancient world has ever seen to a real-life napalm flamethrower, but here is the terrifying catch. If the wind shifts even a tiny bit, or if your crew makes one small mistake with the pressure valve, this weapon won't destroy the enemy fleet. It will turn your own wooden ship into a giant blazing bonfire in seconds. To understand the sheer stress of your job, you first need to look at the vessel underneath your feet. You're commanding a droman, the absolute king of medieval naval warfare. Think of the droman as the sports car of ancient warships. It is long, narrow, and built for explosive bursts of speed. It has two massive triangular sails, but its real muscle comes from 100 rowers packed tightly beneath the wooden deck, pulling oars in perfect rhythm. For hundreds of years, sea battles were straightforward. Ships would sail directly at each other, crash their heavy wooden rams together, and soldiers would jump across to fight hand-to-hand with swords and spears. But your enemy, the Umayyad Caliphate, brought a fleet so massive that traditional sword fighting wasn't going to save you. They had vastly more ships and thousands more men. If you played by the old rules, Constantinople would fall in a single afternoon. Therefore, the Byzantine emperor knew he needed a miracle, and that miracle arrived in a sealed copper pot. An engineer and architect named Callinicus fled to Constantinople with a top-secret chemical recipe that would alter military history forever. The Byzantines called it sea fire, or liquid fire. Today, we know it as Greek fire. So, how did this ancient superweapon actually work? Imagine taking a super soaker's squirt gun, but instead of cool water, you fill it with a boiling mixture of crude petroleum, sticky pine resin, sulfur, and quicklime. Down in the lower deck of your ship, your crew lights a roaring furnace beneath a sealed bronze cauldron. As the thick liquid heats up, it builds up incredible amounts of air pressure, exactly like a high-tech pressure cooker in a modern kitchen. A long copper tube runs from that cauldron all the way up to the front bow of your ship, ending at that hollow bronze dragon siphon. When you signal to open the valve, the pressurized liquid squirts out of the dragon's mouth in a roaring stream. A small torch held right at the nozzle ignites the spray instantly. The result? A localized jet stream of sticky, roaring fire shooting 50 to 100 feet straight across the water. But here is where the true nightmare begins for the enemy. What is the very first thing anybody does when a wooden boat catches on fire? They grab a bucket and dump seawater on it. If the enemy tries that with Greek fire, it only makes the fire burn faster and hotter. Because of the chemical ingredients inside, specifically petroleum and quicklime, water doesn't put Greek fire out, it reacts with it. The sticky burning liquid floats right on top of the waves, turning the ocean surface itself into a floating sheet of flame. Enemy sailors who jumped overboard to escape the heat found themselves jumping straight into an ocean that was literally on fire. Sounds like an unbeatable video game cheat code, right? Therefore, you must be feeling pretty confident standing on that captain's bridge. Not quite. Being the commander of a Greek fire warship was easily one of the most nerve-wracking jobs in human history. You were literally standing on top of a floating wooden bomb. First, think about the wind. Greek fire had a range of about 80 feet max. If the wind blew back toward your own ship when you opened that valve, the flaming sticky liquid would blow right back into your crew's faces. Your sails would catch fire and your own ship would burn to the waterline. Second, look at the pressure system in the hull. If your crew heated the furnace too fast, or if a copper pipe had a tiny crack, the cauldron would explode inside your lower deck. It wouldn't just kill the rowers, it would instantly vaporize your entire ship before you even saw an enemy blade. Third, there was the extreme rule of state secrecy. The Byzantine emperor protected the recipe for Greek fire with terrifying strictness. Only 2 families in the entire empire knew the exact ingredients. But that meant as a ship captain, even you didn't know what was inside those pots. You were handed sealed canisters, told where to pour them, and warned that if you ever allowed a single drop to fall into enemy hands, your punishment was execution. If an enemy ship managed to board you, your main job wasn't even to win the sword fight. Your job was to smash the bronze siphons and destroy the equipment so the enemy could never learn how the weapon worked. Now, let's step right back into your shoes on that historic day in 674 AD. The massive enemy fleet lines up in the bay outside your city. From the high stone walls of Constantinople, thousands of terrified citizens are watching your tiny fleet sail out. You order your rowers forward. The oars splash into the water in unison. The enemy sees your small squadron approaching and prepares for standard boarding action. They outnumber you 10 to 1. They crowd their decks with archers and soldiers, ready to jump onto your ship. But that is exactly what you want. You need them to get close. 100 feet, 80 feet, 60 feet. Do your crewmen hold a lit torch near the bronze dragon's mouth? The heat from the furnace below radiates right up through the floorboards under your boots. The metal pipes are hissing with trapped steam and pressure. Your men are sweating, waiting for your command. You swing your sword forward. Release the fire. Whoosh! A deafening roar shakes the wooden frame of your ship. A bright, blinding jet of green and yellow flame blasts straight out of the dragon siphon. It sounds like thunder and roars like an enraged beast. The stream of liquid fire hits the enemy lead ship right in the center hull. Instantly, their wooden deck, ropes and cloth sails burst into flames. The enemy sailors panic, grabbing buckets of seawater and splashing it onto the deck, therefore making the flames flare up twice as fast. The burning liquid spills over the sides, coating the ocean around them. Within 3 minutes, 3 major enemy ships are trapped in a circle of roaring fire. The psychological terror is complete. The enemy navy had never seen anything like this. They didn't think it was military technology. They thought you were unleashing dark, unnatural magic. Panicked, the remaining hundreds of enemy ships turn around, crashing into one another in a frantic attempt to escape. A massive invading armada flees in total chaos from just a handful of Byzantine dromons. For over 500 years, Greek fire acted as an invisible shield for Constantinople. Multiple massive fleets tried to conquer the city over the centuries, and time after time, a squad of Greek fire ships burned them to ashes. But this leaves us with the biggest mystery of all. If Greek fire was the most dangerous naval weapon on Earth for 5 centuries, where did it go? Why don't we see it in museum displays today? The answer lies in the intense secrecy that protected it in the first place. Because the Byzantine emperors refused to write the formula down on parchment, the exact chemical recipe was passed down purely by word of mouth from master to apprentice across generations. Centuries later, as the Byzantine Empire slowly weakened through civil wars and foreign invasions, those secret family lines were wiped out. The last individuals who knew the precise proportions died without passing the knowledge on. Modern scientists and historians have spent decades trying to recreate Greek fire in high-tech laboratories. We know it contained petroleum, resin and sulfur, but nobody has ever successfully figured out the exact chemical trick that allowed it to ignite instantly, on contact with water, without blowing up the pump system. Commanding a Byzantine warship wasn't just about being a captain in a naval battle. You were controlling a high-stakes floating experiment that held the survival of an entire empire on its deck. Without Greek fire, Constantinople likely would have fallen hundreds of years earlier, completely altering the history, borders and culture of Europe. So what if you commanded a Byzantine warship with Greek fire? You would be holding the single most dangerous trigger in the ancient world, standing on a wooden boat hoping the wind didn't turn, holding a secret that saved an empire, but couldn't save itself from being lost to history.